When I was little, I had an extremely vivid dream. In the dream, there was a building with a huge set of stairs leading up to 2 separate doors, one on each side. My dad and I were sitting on the stairs while I watched my mom and sister walk into the door on the right. Immediately, I felt like their lives were in danger. So without telling my dad, I walked up the stairs and went through the same door. As soon as I entered, I was face to face with a conductor. His flesh was falling off his bones. His hair was dangling from his scalp. His eyes were popping out of their sockets. And he was conducting a loud orchestra I could hear, but could not see. I burst into tears and ran out of the building. That was where the dream ended. Years later, in 8th grade, my band class won a trip to Mackinac Island. When we got there, my group chose to ride bikes through the streets. Then I saw it. The building from my dream. The huge stairs. The 2 doors on either side. The creepy look of it. It was real. There was a sign that said the Haunted Theater. I stopped right there while my friends kept riding ahead. I could not believe what I was seeing. When I got home, I asked my mom if we had ever gone to Mackinac Island when I was younger. She said yes. Then I asked if she and my sister had gone into a creepy little haunted house. She said yes again. That was when I realized the nightmare I had carried for years was not a dream. It was a memory. This happened when I was 19. A buddy of mine was on leave from the Marines and came to visit. When we went to sleep, I let him take my bed, and I slept on the couch. It was an L-shaped sectional. The short part of the couch was down by my feet, and there was an ottoman near that little corner. I had one of those weird sleeps where I woke up before opening my eyes. When I opened them, there was something standing next to the ottoman. It was within arm's reach. There was a light on in the hallway behind it, so I could mostly see it as a silhouette. It was about 3 or 4 feet tall. The only clear feature I remember was greasy hair covering most of its face. The second I saw it, my whole body filled with terror. Not normal fear. It was like pure dread had been poured into me. I immediately closed my eyes and turned toward the back of the couch, pretending I had not seen it. Then I heard a loud whisper. It was either in my ear or inside my thoughts. It said, "I saw you see me. Don't act like you didn't." I did not move. I did not say anything. I just lay there praying until I eventually fell asleep. At some point, I heard my friend wake up, use the bathroom, and go back to bed. The next morning, while we were eating breakfast, he mentioned that when he woke up in the middle of the night, the house felt haunted. I had sleep paralysis before. I had lucid dreams. I had false awakening dreams. This was not like any of those. It is the only truly supernatural thing I have ever seen that I cannot explain away. When I was 15, I had a dream where I was looking up from inside a car. A woman walked past, stopped, looked down at me, and smiled. That was it. Just a strange little dream. 2 years later, I moved countries to go to college. I was studying mechanical engineering, and in my second year, we had to do some hands-on work. One day, I was helping strip a Mini for parts. We had tipped the car onto its roof, and I was underneath it, stripping out the handbrake cable. I looked up, and there she was, the exact same woman from my dream 2 years earlier. She was in my class. She looked down at me and smiled, exactly the same way she had in the dream. Later that month, we were having lunch, and she mentioned that when she looked down at me under the car, she had the weirdest feeling. I told her about my dream. Then she told me she had dreamed the same moment too, but from the other angle. I do not know what to do with that. 2 people dreaming the same random future moment from opposite perspectives is not something I can easily explain. I was walking along the sidewalk one day when, for no reason at all, my shoelace broke. It was not old. It was only a few weeks old. It should not have snapped like that. I stopped and started tying a knot where the lace had broken. While I was doing that, I looked up toward the crosswalk where I would have been if I had kept walking. A car plowed through 3 people. One of them was seriously hurt. If my shoelace had not broken at that exact moment, I would have been in that crosswalk. I have never broken another shoelace like that. It probably saved my life. And I still think about how strange it is that something so small changed everything. A Thai friend of mine was in a car at an intersection. The light had just turned green, and she was starting to move forward. Suddenly, someone banged hard on her car window. She stopped immediately. She looked around. No one was there. But at that exact moment, another car ran the red light. If she had kept going, it would have hit her from the side. She believed it was her daughter. Her daughter had passed away earlier that year. Maybe it was just some strange sound. Maybe it was something else. But whatever hit that window made her stop at the exact second she needed to. My bike saved my life once. Many years ago, I was riding on narrow country roads where there was almost no traffic. My bike chain suddenly fell off the front crank while I was pedaling. That had never happened before, even after thousands of miles. I stopped and put it back on. I rode maybe 20 seconds, and it fell off again. Annoyed, I stopped, put it back on, and kept going. Then it happened a third time. Now I was really annoyed. So I walked the bike about 20 feet off the road into the grass to take a closer look at it. About 20 seconds later, a pickup truck came barreling down the road behind me. There were 3 young guys inside, and it was pulling an empty, extra-wide trailer. The trailer tires were about a foot off the road, into the dirt and grass. If I had still been riding, that trailer almost certainly would have hit me. I checked the bike and saw nothing wrong. I continued the ride, and the chain never fell off again. I still have that bike. Other than that one day, the chain has never done that while riding. One night I was heading home and had offered my friends a lift. Everyone wanted to stay longer, so I started saying goodbye. Then suddenly, one friend changed their mind and decided to come with me. Because I had to drop them off, I went home in a completely different direction than I would have taken alone. That night, there was a fatal accident right where I would have driven through if I had gone my usual way. And it happened around the same time I would have been there. It is strange to think about. One person changing their mind at the last second may have saved me from driving straight into something terrible. I was raised off-grid on an uninhabited mountain, except for my family. We were the first established homestead on that mountain ever, and the first residents since the early 1900s miners had left. Our log home was about half a mile down from an abandoned mining camp. There were about 9 old cabins up there. As a kid, I used to hike there and play around the cabins. In the most intact cabin, there was a notebook. In it, I read stories from past owners about something called the Little Blue Girl. Later, I found the remains of an old children's fort. It had been built with a handmade cabin door from the 1900s, hung in a tree like a treehouse. One fall evening, my family came home and entered through the mudroom. Suddenly, we all heard a strange noise. We looked at the front door leading to the porch. The deadbolt was locking and unlocking extremely fast. It takes some muscle to move that deadbolt. It stopped. I said, "Mom?" She walked over, opened the door, and there was nothing there. She shut the door. The deadbolt locked and unlocked again, then stopped. My mom just said, "It was the wind." But it never happened again. Years later, when I was in my mid-20s, I took a family friend horseback riding on that same mountain. We were walking along, enjoying the early spring weather, talking about whatever came to mind. Then suddenly, about 40 yards away, we heard a little girl laugh loudly. My friend smiled and said, "Oh, you have children up here." I shook my head and said, "No, we don't." There was not another soul for a few miles. No children anywhere nearby. My friend went pale and asked, "Well, what was that?" I went quiet. I thought I knew what it was. I thought I had just had my first encounter with the little blue girl. But I did not want to scare my friend, so I just said, "I don't know." We continued the ride. Nothing else happened. But I still remember that laugh. There is one more thing about that mountain. Not often, but sometimes out of nowhere, I get this awful feeling. Like something evil is close. I once talked to an older man who owned property up there. He was an outdoorsman, a tough guy, not the kind of person who scares easily. We were talking about strange things that happen on the mountain, and I asked if he ever felt that evil feeling. I thought he would laugh at me. Instead, he got completely serious. He told me that once he was in his cabin when it suddenly felt like the darkness outside got even darker. He became terrified. The hairs on his arms stood up. He said he almost got in his truck and left. He admitted he had never felt anything like it. He said it lasted maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but felt like forever. He was actually relieved I had asked because he thought maybe something was wrong with him. We still have no idea what that feeling is. Not long after my husband and I were newly married, he was taking a shower in our ensuite bathroom. I was in the laundry room. Suddenly, he yelled for me. When I went to see what he needed, he asked what I had just been doing in the bathroom. I told him I had been in the laundry room the whole time. He said he had seen a woman through the shower curtain. He made me promise not to tell anyone because he thought people would think he was crazy. I kept quiet. A few weeks later, my sister and nephews came to stay for the weekend. The youngest was about 4. My husband had gone out with his dad and brother, and it was after dark. My nephew was watching TV while my sister and I were in the kitchen. The hallway from the kitchen leads to my bedroom. The bedroom door was closed. Suddenly, my nephew said, "I thought you said Uncle was gone." We asked what he meant. He said he saw someone come through my bedroom door. After that, I did not go back into that room until my husband came home. Then we finally told my sister about the woman in the bathroom. I was visiting family a few towns over when I suddenly got this feeling that I had to find my brother. He had chosen a rough path in life, and I thought maybe he was hungry or needed something. I just felt like I needed to find him, maybe have dinner with him before I left town. As I drove around searching for him, I had this gut-wrenching sick feeling. It felt like if I did not find him, he was going to die. I spent hours looking around town. Ponds, lakes, bridges, streets, places I had no logical reason to check. I never found him. The next morning, police informed my parents that my brother had passed away. We had never known him to be suicidal. I always felt like something bad had happened, but I could never prove it. Years later, when I stopped by his grave, one song out of thousands on my playlist came on. It was the exact sad song someone had sung at his funeral. Then when I got home, another song came on that my cousin and I had dedicated to my brother. I still do not know what to make of it. After my brother passed, my husband and I found out I was pregnant. We had been together for over 17 years and had been trying forever with no luck. The baby was supposed to be due the same month as my brother's birthday. We felt like our son was a gift from him. My son ended up being born 4 months early. He had a stork mark, which some people believe is a kiss from a family member who passed around the time the baby was conceived. While my baby was in the NICU, my brother came to me in a dream. In the dream, he wanted to wake me and the baby up. I told him to let the baby sleep because we were exhausted. I was annoyed with him, but he was insistent. He started shaking my son, trying to wake him. When I woke up, we went to the NICU earlier than planned to check on him. When we got there, my son was extremely lethargic. The fingers on his right hand were purple. No one had caught it yet. After tests, they found out he had an infection where the PICC line surgery had been done. He needed a blood transfusion and medicine immediately. If my brother had not come to me in that dream, it might have been too late. I was lying in bed when I saw the shadow of something very small run out of my parents' bedroom and down the stairs. It looked like a tiny person, maybe a foot tall. I heard the footsteps too. Seconds later, my mom came out of the room. I asked her what that was. She said she had not heard anything. But I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. It was not a mouse. It was not a pet. It moved like a little person. And I still do not know what ran out of that room. When my cousin was 5, I used to babysit her. She told me she sometimes saw a little man walk out of her closet and leave the room. At first, I thought it was just kid imagination, but later, she told me she saw a whole group of little men marching out of her closet like soldiers. I know she was only 5. Kids say strange things. But it scared me because when I stayed overnight to babysit, I had to sleep in that room. And after hearing that, I never felt comfortable there. My brother had just gotten out of prison after 19 years. For 3 of those years, he had spent time in solitary confinement. He told me that while he was there, he would sometimes see a tiny person in the vent. It would peer out at him from time to time, and it would taunt him. I do not know what to make of that. Maybe isolation does strange things to the mind. Maybe it was something else, but hearing him talk about a little person peering through the vent still creeps me out. My friend and I were driving home on a clear night. We came around a bend, and I saw what looked like an old man in the road. He was bent over, walking slowly. He had on a red flannel shirt and jeans. My friend and I both screamed at the same time, and she slammed on the brakes. I closed my eyes because I thought we were going to hit him. When I opened them, it was a buck, just a deer. But then I looked at my friend, and she said, "I swear to God that was a man." She described the exact same thing I had seen. The red flannel, the jeans, the old man shape. The buck stared at us for a second. Then it ran off. I still do not understand how both of us saw the exact same man before it turned into a deer. Decades ago, my parents were driving through a mountainous region near Guanajuato, Mexico. They had been driving all day from Houston because a relative was doing very poorly, and they did not expect him to live much longer. It was very late and very dark. They were hungry and joking about what food they wished they had. Then, my dad said he really wanted a chile raspa, a snow cone. And up ahead on this dark, winding mountain road, there was a man pedaling a raspa cart. In the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, everyone in the van went silent. My dad started to slow down. Then he heard someone say, "Don't stop. Don't look, and don't stop." So he kept his eyes on the road, carefully went around the man, and sped up. Later, everyone in the van denied saying anything. They all said they had been too focused on the impossible sight of a man with a snow cone cart on an empty mountain road at night. To this day, nobody knows who told him not to stop. I was driving home with my stepdad one night. Suddenly, these black figures sprinted across the road in front of us. They moved so fast they could not have been human. They looked like the kind of things that haunt people in nightmares. They were just black, quick, vicious-looking shapes. They crossed the road and disappeared. I do not have a better explanation. I just know they did not move like normal people. And they did not feel harmless. A few years ago, my husband was working overseas. So my cats and I took advantage of the empty bed and cuddled up to watch TV. Near the bedroom door, we had a coat rack that had been there for years. As we were all snuggled up, I watched the coat rack slide across the floor horizontally. It moved a few feet. Then it threw itself down in the middle of the room. My cats jumped off the bed as fast as they could. I screamed. I turned on every light in the house and waited a few minutes before I checked it and put it back. It never happened again. My husband still thinks maybe one of the cats jumped on it when I was not looking. But all the cats were in bed with me, and I watched it move like someone was dragging it. I have heard footsteps in the hallway between our bedrooms a few times. My husband always says it is the house settling, but friends who have stayed over have heard it too and were scared. One night I had a horrible nightmare. In the dream I heard those footsteps in the hallway, so I sat up in bed. Then I saw a little boy with missing eyes. He was screaming and gasping for air. He fell from the ceiling and started crawling toward us. His eye sockets were bleeding. He was mostly decomposed. I woke up sweating and shaking. At the same time, my husband jumped up, completely freaking out. He almost never has nightmares. I told him to tell me about it, and it was the exact same dream. Down to the missing eyes and the screaming. No scary movies. No scary stories before bed. Nothing that could have triggered it. Neither of us slept again that night. I was standing in a well-lit courtyard near a road in a small village with a group of friends. There was a tamed raven that had been flying from person to person all night. It was near a live music venue, but nobody knew who it belonged to. No local had ever seen it before either. Suddenly, it flew from someone's shoulder directly into the path of a car. We all saw it hit the front left wheel. There was a thud, an explosion of feathers. Then it disappeared. We gasped and reacted like anyone would. Then we turned around. The raven was on a table behind us. It hopped onto someone else's shoulder. Untouched, unbothered, acting exactly the same as before. All of my friends saw the same thing. Only about half of us had been drinking, and I was completely sober. I have never been able to explain what happened. Something about that moment felt deeply wrong. When I was a child, I went skiing with my school for a week. We slept in groups of about 6 kids, all in bunk beds. In the middle of the night, I woke up and saw a gray-white figure skiing down an invisible mountain in the air. It was happening right there in the pitch-black room. It scared me, but I told myself it was probably just my imagination. Then my friend, who was sleeping in the bed below mine, kicked my mattress. They asked if I had seen something. That was when we realized we had both seen the same person skiing through the room. The scariest sleep paralysis I ever had was when I felt a stranger spooning me from behind. I could feel the body there, the weight, the shape. Then it whispered in my ear in this sinister voice that I was going to need a bandage. Another time, I saw a witch standing over me. She pushed her hand down my throat. I woke up coughing. I know sleep paralysis can be explained, but when it is happening, it does not feel like a dream. It feels like someone is really there with you. My scariest sleep paralysis episode happened while I was sleeping on my side. I felt something climb into bed with me. First, I felt the mattress move. Then I felt the weight creeping closer. Then it started pushing me down into the mattress. I could not move. I could not turn around. I could only feel it pressing me down harder and harder. Sleep paralysis is strange enough when you see something, but feeling something get into bed with you makes it feel far too real. My wife sees things when she wakes up in the middle of the night, but she does not get the paralysis part. She has seen all kinds of strange things. Cake coming through the ceiling, animals running around the room, a tree made out of trash, a stick insect on my sleeping face, a pair of trousers dancing over the door like one of those inflatable tube men. Hunched creatures balanced on things in ways that made no sense. And once, our own dog standing on top of the wardrobe. I know some of it sounds absurd, but when she wakes up and reacts, she is genuinely seeing these things. And sometimes, watching her panic at something I cannot see is almost as creepy as seeing it myself. This happened in high school in 2010. It was roll call on an average sunny day. A little windy, but nothing unusual. The teacher was trying to get everyone's attention. The classroom ceiling was made of plasterboard panels. Suddenly, row by row, every ceiling panel shifted in unison. It made this sound, jut. Jut, 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 jut. The whole classroom went silent. The teacher did not even flinch. She just said, "Now that I have your attention." A few students laughed nervously and asked what that was. I still do not know. Maybe it was wind. Maybe there was a massive animal in the ceiling. Maybe my teacher had telekinesis. All I know is, I have no idea what happened that day. One night, I was walking on a dark trail. At some point, I saw the branches and bushes behind me suddenly light up. Headlights, something was following me. The lights were still around the corner, so I did not know if whoever it was had seen me yet. I immediately turned off the flashlight on my phone. I decided the best possible explanation was not worth risking the worst possible one, so I ran. I ran for about 2 kilometers straight until I thought I had lost them. Then the headlights came back. This time, I bailed into the bushes off the side of the trail and lay completely still. The lights stopped. Then they turned off. I heard people talking, but from the other side of the trail, like they were in a backyard nearby. When I looked through the trees, there was no car, no person, nothing. I waited there, terrified, then sprinted until I got out of the forested area and back onto a main street. That night rattled me for the entire week after. Even seeing headlights in the dark made me feel sick. My late grandparents had an old music player that needed to be cranked with a key to play. One night, a bunch of family was over for dinner. My dad was talking about my grandma, his mother. The music player had not been touched in months. Suddenly it started playing, only for a few seconds. Then it stopped. No one had cranked it. No one had touched it. It was like it decided to respond exactly when my dad was talking about her. I was at my mother's house, standing in the kitchen with her. She was on the phone, and I was helping her finish baking biscuits. As she was chatting, I heard the sound of dog feet tapping on the kitchen floor. Without thinking, I assumed it was the dog coming in to see if there were crumbs. Then I remembered. The dog had died about a year earlier. It was the weirdest feeling. The sound was so familiar that my brain accepted it before I remembered it was impossible. I like to think he was there watching us in the kitchen. I loved that dog.